right, this is part two of learning module two. So we'll go in 5 minute segments is what we'll go on. We just finished this slide. We talked about a mathematical expression where we have one value on the left, a mathematical operator, the addition side, and another value on the right hand side. This expression always gets evaluated, and we saw in the interpreter that we can treat the interpreter as a calculator. So if I want to raise 3 to the power of 2, it's going to respond with 9. So that's 3 squared, 3 times 3. Okay. Now, let's move on. So here are our mathematical operators in Python. You have exponentiation, where we raise something to a power, modulus, or the remainder. This will tell us what the remainder of something is. So if we say 5 modulus 2, it's like saying 5 divided by 2, but what is the remainder? The remainder should be 1, okay? Because 2 goes into 5 2 times with the remainder of 1. So modulus tells us what the remainder is. If we remembered in our C programming lesson, we used the modulus operator. Well, one way that we used it was to determine if a number was even or odd. If you take the modulus of a number, if we mod it by 2 and there is no remainder, then we know that it's even. Then we have the division mathematical operator, multiplication, subtraction, and addition. Also be familiar with the order of operations. First parentheticals are evaluated, then exponentiation, then we have our multiplication of the clean star, and then addition and subtraction. Okay, so make sure you're comfortable on the interpreter in our shell environment. When I say shell environment or the interpreter, that's the same thing. This is our shell. Make sure you are comfortable in being able to type these out. So write out this expression and make sure you understand how the mathematical expression gets evaluated. So when you type this one in, the answer is 20. When you type this one in, the answer is 30. But when you see the same numbers are used, it's based on the order of operations. We put parentheses around the 2 plus 3. So the 2 plus 3 gets evaluated first because of the parentheses. Okay. Versus in the first expression, the 2 plus 3 does not get evaluated first. The 3 times 6 does. And that is 18, then plus 2, which is 20. In this case, it's 2 plus 3, which is 5 times 6, and that's why it's 30. Okay? All right, so the other thing we need to become familiar with is that when we put these, and once we learn the Python programming language, it's basically putting all of the proper Python commands together to form executable statements. And so we need to understand the grammar of the language. It's just like the English language, to where when we write English and we say this is a grammatically correct English sentence versus what's in red, this grammatically is a sentence, not English correct A. We don't understand what that what's in the red text box. We don't understand what that is. We're using the language incorrectly. So we need to understand Python and the rules of the language so that we can write proper Python statements. Okay. Now moving on. When we deal with Python, when we deal with any kind of programming for that matter, there's different data types that we're used to using. So in Python, some of the common ones that we're going to be using right away, there's more than this, but some of the ones we're going to be using right away is going to be these three: the integer data type, floating point data type, and the string data type. The integer is just whole numbers, negative and positive. Floating points, that's when you have a decimal. And then the string is just a set of characters. Okay, so integers, your options are -2 all the way up to 32,000 and something. Floating point, there are minimum and maximum values. We'll get into this later. It's based on the type of architecture that your code is actually running on, or what the interpreter is running on. But we don't need to worry about that right this minute. And then we have floating point numbers. That's our standard where we have any decimal point. And then our strings. Now in Python, we can use the single quote or we can use the double quote. Okay, so this is a legitimate string as well. Okay, So if I want to create a variable